you want it on right now? Are we rolling so we can close the doors?
Yeah, go ahead and close the door.
Lock the doors. Here's the agenda. I'm going to have that in front of me. So I do this in order. Okay, the doors are locked. You can't go anywhere.
You share the agenda.
Well, with that, if everybody is ready to begin the meeting, I'd like to call the 2025 annual meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the declaration of a quorum.
We've established a quorum with those present.
Okay, the quorum has been duly established. Thank you, Rob. Third item on the agenda is the approval of the annual minutes for April 17, 2024. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve as written.
Okay, do I hear a second? All in favor? Okay, terrific. Now for the most exciting part of the evening. We have our elections officer, Sergio Martinez, who's going to talk to us about the election results.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Sergio Martinez, your election officer for this 2025 year, and I'd like to begin the nomination portion of our meeting. We have 3 open positions, each serving a 3-year term on the board of directors. I will open at this moment the floor to any additional candidates. Okay. Okay, given the fact that we don't have any additional nominations, I would like to announce the 3 candidates we currently have running for these positions: Glenn Glass, Joe Ernst, and Jack Bessel. Since we don't have any more candidates, we're pleased to declare that Glenn Glass, Joe Ernst, and Jack Bessel have been elected by acclamation. Congratulations to the 3 of you.
Right. Congratulations, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Very good. Can you all hear me all right with this mic? If not, tell me. Let me see. Okay. The next item on the agenda is to announce the Volunteer of the Year award, and also give awards to our board members who are leaving the board at the expiration of their term. There are 3 board members who are leaving the board at the expiration of their term. One is Glenn Glass, one is Joe Ernst, and the third is somebody who's really dedicated a tremendous amount of time and effort to the success of the board. And we're very, very pleased, Bob Parker, to give you the award for your service on the board. Okay, why don't you do that?
Okay. Is Glenn Glass, is Glenn here?
No, Glenn and Joe and
Bob, there you go. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Joe?
thank you very much, Bob. We appreciate everything that you've done.
Yes, sir.
The Volunteer of the Year Award. Volunteers are so important. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, to the success of the Dominion. But every year we acknowledge one particular volunteer who stands out because of their contribution and effort in terms of making the Dominion a better place to live and raise your families. And this year, the candidate who won the award for Volunteer of the Year is Tom Phillips. Tom, would you please stand up? Tom is come up here, because you're going to have to carry one of these things, Tom. Tom is chairman of the Security Committee. He's been chairman for 3 years. He's been on the Security Committee and working very diligently for over 5 years. And I can tell you, in this past year, my observation of what he's done and the amount of time and effort he spends and the amount he really cares about what we're doing and goes and personally pays attention to what's being done and how it's being done, I really admire him for making the sacrifice to make security one of the strongest assets we have here in the Dominion. So, Tom, I want to congratulate you and thank you very much for what you do and continue to do, because you will continue as chairman of the Security Committee. Thank you. Now, I want to talk about the Dominion a little bit. I want to talk about from 50,000 feet, because I don't think we look at our neighborhood from 50,000 feet very often. You're going to hear a lot tonight about all of the management contributions and committee contributions and things that have occurred this year. But I think it's, first of all, we need to recognize that we live in an oasis in the middle of a commercial development that's got all of the pros and cons of commercial areas, and we live in this oasis, and we don't think about what a great place it is to live. We have got probably 25 different and distinct neighborhoods. We've got 1,800 homes. We've probably got 6,500 residents. There's 55 miles of paved roads. We've got infrastructure that's 42 years old and infrastructure that's brand new. The responsibility for managing this oasis and keeping us in this cocoon that we live in, that we tend to underappreciate at times, I think is very, very significant. We have a jewel, and we need to protect it. The other thing that I have begun to realize is that you think, well, the board runs all this stuff. And then you say, no, the board doesn't do anything. The HOA runs it. So anything goes wrong, it's the HOA or the board, right? Well, you know, you start to drill down and you look. We have got 9 board members. That's fine. Spend a lot of time. 60-plus people are involved in committees. Will all the committee chairs please stand up that are here tonight? Jack? Tom, you're standing up. If you serve on a committee, will you stand up? Because it's just, it's tremendous to me that we've got 60 residents that are spending a tremendous amount of their personal time to make this community better. Now, do you realize we've got 74 San Antonio Police Departments in rotation, officers, and they rotate through. They're all out of the Prue station. There's 2 on duty all the time. But we've got 74 police officers that really understand the NICS, or not the NICS, really understand Dominion. That is a tremendous asset from a law enforcement standpoint, I can tell you, to have that kind of appreciation of the police department. Cleanscapes. We've got 18 full-time employees, not on our payroll. And Richie, you are with Cleanscapes, and stand tall back there, but you have an office in our HOA, so he's really a team member of Dominion. He's as much a team member as anybody on that list. And those Cleanscape employees, I told him, I figured he had 180 employees because I see Cleanscapes everywhere. Okay. Smith, can't say enough about our security. You know, you see a guard, and you say, okay, there's a guard, and, you know, no big deal, so we got a little bit of security. No, we have got 32 guards that rotate, and we've got Wakai back here, who is as much a team member as Richie is, and he works directly with the HOA, and he's basically he's an employee of the HOA now, and we have direct supervision and control over what Smith is doing. And their leadership has come and met with us out of Dallas and just are blown away by what we're doing and how we're doing it, and committed whatever we need in terms of security. And you'll hear a great story about security when you hear the report coming later. Pape Dawson. You know, these roads don't just fix themselves. We've got a development committee with some really smart people on it. But Pape Dawson is very committed to serving us and providing advice and counsel to us relative to what we should be doing with the roads. I mean, it's a huge issue. I mean, when you think about 55 miles of roads, we put down over 200,000 yards of asphalt, not asphalt, but a protective asphalt layer just this past year. And we're probably going to do the same or more next year. We have the responsibility of maintaining 55 miles of roads, curbs, and all the things that go along with it. So it's a big deal just from that one standpoint. This past year, we have added a lot of security enhancements. Our record relative to security this past year is unbelievable. And you know, doesn't mean anything's going to happen, nothing's going to happen in the future. But I want to tell you, with all the things that are going on around this community and the response that we have from our security team and from the officers to the slightest incident that occurs is amazing to me. And I think it's underappreciated by all the residents. It's a tremendous asset. Landscaping and parks. We did something this year that I think is a great step forward for the community. You know, one of our major responsibilities is to protect the homeowner values, right? Security is one of those things. You see it, you feel it. Landscaping, you see it, right? And we've got landscaping that's 42 years old, and we've got landscaping that's brand new. We're in a drought-tolerant world. We've got to redo our landscaping. We have had to do tremendous things with our islands, and there's a huge plan. It's a multi-year plan to get the islands straightened out and maintain them, and monuments going forward. It's a big deal, just to keep the environment looking fresh and good. And we did something else this year. There's been a real demand from the community for parks. So we expanded the scope of landscape. We don't call it the landscape committee anymore. What's it called, Jack? Common area and parks, okay? We don't have a landscape committee. And that's because parks and places for people to enjoy the community and stay in the community, whether it be walking trails or places to get together for events, is a real need for a community our size. And we need to make investment in the park assets that we have and new parks that we're doing. And Jack and his team are putting together an incredible multi-year plan to make parks one of those big assets that Dominion will have. One of the things that is some people make fun of it, but this dog park, right? I was amazed when the dog park, they had the grand opening of the dog park, there were probably 300 people there. I bet you there were 75 dogs. I mean, it was a great, the feeling was just terrific of the camaraderie and the people who was just having a good time sharing the space. One of the reasons I moved to Dominion was covenant enforcement. Lynn and I have lived in communities where they have covenants, but they don't enforce them. And if you don't enforce your covenants, what happens to the neighborhood, right? We have strengthened our covenant enforcements this past year, and we're even strengthening more this year, and we've got a car now that is going to be driven around the community all the time, monitoring and looking at homes and lots and things of this nature. And we're really going to step up. So it's not just the Architectural Control Board, it's the enforcement to make sure that the community is meeting the standards that is demanded. I talked about roads maintenance, 55 miles of road, 200,000 yards of asphalt. Another asset in our community we don't talk much about is the country club. A lot of criticism over the country club, a lot of it really justified. But we worked hard this year to build bridges with the country club and build a relationship with the country club and make sure they acknowledge and understand what an asset they have in this community and how we need to work together. And we've really broken through some barriers in terms of working together on some events, and we're going to continue to do that going forward. Chris Fink couldn't be here tonight, and he asked me to please announce that he is going to open the first week of May. He said that, I didn't. But he's very excited about what they're doing inside the club. So those of you who are members, I encourage you to go and experience it. Those of you who quit, I encourage you to go with a member and see what it's all about and give it another chance. They've hired a new chef. They've got a whole new deal for food. We'll see how it works because you know how that's been. The last but not least is financial and financial integrity. And you know, we have an audit every year that's a very, very detailed audit. Our treasurer, Todd Warwick, and I have met with the auditors, and they spend a lot of time with Lisa and her team. They go through the books thoroughly and look at areas where we might potentially have control problems with a small group. They've strengthened the financial controls this year. We've got a $7 million budget. It's a big deal. We've spent over $2 million in capital last year. It's something that I think that the board has a real responsibility to ensure strong financial integrity of the association. And all of this that I've talked about is to help your homeowner values. That's all it is. I mean, we could do away with it all tomorrow. But what would happen? Right? So I am just proud of the power that we've got behind our team. And I really acknowledge our homeowners association and the 9 people under Rob's leadership and Lisa and the work that they do and all of our partners that are working with us. So thank you very much. That's my overview. So. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rob.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the comments. John touched on the team, and I think he's right. We've always had some great teams over the years. This being, I think, an exceptional year. I'd like to point out, some of the teams are certainly team members and team associates are compensated, but a good portion of them are volunteers. So your board members and your committee members volunteer, and we're blessed in this community to have some very talented, experienced individuals on the board, on the committee, serving as chairs, and this year has been exceptional. So I thank those that do volunteer their time and give freely and come to monthly meetings and come to board meetings and spend their time and contribute their expertise. It's very helpful for the community, very helpful for staff, and it makes this community what it is. So thank you for your service. At this point, we're going to go through a little bit of a management report, a little bit of operations report. Our 2 biggest components in the HOA, and where vast preponderance of the funds go, are to security, one. So security is job one and our priority, and we We've already indicated Tom's leading the way as the chairman of that committee and making great strides in improving security. When things are quiet, that is an excellent sign. And we will all say it's been an exceptionally quiet year. And maybe this meeting is also a testament that things are quiet, and that is typically a good sign for a homeowners association. So I'm gonna turn it over to Tom, and Tom's gonna talk specifically about security and the initiatives out there, things we've done in the past, things that we're gonna do going forward, and I'll turn it over to Tom.
Hey there, how you doing? I know most of you in this room, I think. Had wine with a few of you. Yeah, so in the last couple of years, I know when I first started on the committee, the main thing that we talked about pretty much every meeting was speeding, right? Yeah, Lyndon was the chair at that point, and speeding was a big thing. Then all of a sudden, we had car break-ins. And then all of a sudden, we had some home burglaries. And so overnight, security became important. It wasn't, and then it was. And so we took a lot of steps to mitigate the immediate problems that we had, but then also thinking forward, right? And so the biggest thing that we've tried to do, I think, is try to move things in a forward direction. As was stated earlier, I think John said there's 54 miles of roadway, there's 1,800 homeowners. It's big, right? There's entire cities that are not as big as the Dominion HOA. I mean, think about that. And they're run by city councils and police departments and everything else, and we're doing it with volunteers. So we've done a whole lot, and the biggest thing that we've accomplished, honestly, is being able to stop problems before they even happen. That's what we've accomplished. So a few of the things that we've done, we've gotten SAPD officers 24 hours now. So whether you realize it or not, there is an SAPD off-duty officer in the Dominion 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Right now in the evening time, we have 2 officers. We bought a second patrol car. I'm sure you guys have seen the patrol cars running around. And so we bought a second one for the second evening officer. And it's just to make that presence more known, right? People are just less likely to do stupid things when they see a police car. That's just the way it is. The vulnerability study that we had done in, now I think it was 21, right? Somewhere around there. We've pretty much closed the whole thing out. There's 1 or 2 things that are open from that particular study, and they're either things that are just simply not feasible for our neighborhood, or for one reason or another just don't work for us as a community, right? But other than that, we pretty much accomplished everything. You've seen a lot of it, and then a lot of things you just haven't seen. For example, we closed the outbound lanes early in the mornings, right? I'm sure some of you deal with that. And now we put up gate arms. We put up the gate arms so that it's easier for the officer, meaning they can concentrate on what they're doing and they don't have to worry about moving cones and barriers and all that stuff, right? Which is a danger to the officer. But also, it looks a lot better. I mean, if you drove through the gate at that time, you know what I'm talking about, right? It was crappy plastic barrier and some cones, and that's what it was. And so now it looks, the appearance is better, for sure, but also it's just more efficient for our officers, and that's really, at the end of the day, that was the point, was to make it more efficient. We've upgraded the camera system all the way around at every gate, so now we not only can see what's going on, and to give you an example, when I started 5 years ago, we would get pictures of an incident, and it was just a grainy black and white thing that you just couldn't read, right? Couldn't see it, couldn't read it, couldn't identify anybody. Now we have 21st century cameras that you can actually read license plates, you can see them, we can see people. We upgraded the audio at every gate so we can now hear, so it just alleviates the he said, she said, right? We actually know what's happening all the time now, so that's a big deal. And then the communication and reporting systems have changed, and that's mainly due to Smith. If you have not met Wakai, please meet Wakai. He's your best friend. He's the guy to know. He runs Smith Security, and has done leaps and bounds for this neighborhood. I don't know I've ever met anyone more engaged in what they were doing than Wakai, to be honest with you. But that company has reporting systems and things that we didn't have before, right? So now the reports that we get are accurate, they're correct, they're on time, they're easier to read, it just makes more sense. So again, a lot of it is just we're moving into the future. That's what's happening, right? Instead of trying to fix what we have, we're actually building it for tomorrow. So in the next couple of years, we shouldn't need to upgrade things. We shouldn't need to spend a lot of money in that. But I spent a lot of your money this last year, I'll tell you that, a lot of it. But it was needed, right? Those upgrades should have been done a long time ago, and they just weren't, and so now they are. So that's what I got. We're doing great. This is one of 11 properties that I own that's in an HOA, and I'm on 4 of the boards for those HOAs. So I see this a lot. This HOA, I can honestly say, functions better than any HOA I've ever been a part of in any way. They know what they're doing. They're dedicated to what they're doing. They listen to you, and I promise, I'm telling you, as a homeowner, the HOA is doing what they can do to protect your home and your valuables. They're doing it. They really, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I think it's a whole concerted effort between everybody. So you should be very proud of where you live and proud of your HOA because they're doing a good job. That's what I got. Well, we did have, yeah, forgot. Forgot about the slide. Sorry. We did have, so this just shows average speeds, right? So like I said, when I first started, speeding was all we talked about, and the average speeding citation in 22 was 147. So we had 147 average monthly speeders, right? Now if you go down to 2024, we had 7. That's what I'm talking about. That's the difference, right? I'm sorry, 69 year to date. Sorry, theft, burglary. We went from 20 to 7. And so, you know, the proof's in the pudding, right? Can't make it up. There it is. So if you ever want to know what's happening, call one of us and we'll tell you. But I can just tell you, if you look around, if you go to any crime map that exists, pull up our zip code and look around. It's all around us, and we're a big blank, which is exactly what we want, right? This month, for the first time in a long time, we didn't have a security committee meeting because there was nothing to talk about. It was just a fact. Nothing happened, right? And that's exactly what we want as a community. We want nothing to happen all the time. It's great. So that's where we're at. Thanks.
Why don't you point out 700,000 people going through the guest lane? That's an amazing number.
And that's just, so that is just guest lane activity, right? That doesn't count homeowners. So it's well over 2 million people going in and out of the gate every single day, or every single year. Like, throughout the day.
Because the guards have to interact with every one of those.
That's right. That's right. So every 687,159 people got talked to by our guards. That's just a staggering number, right? So they do a great job. Smith is fantastic. They've been leaps and bounds past what we had before, although we managed to keep most of the security officers, which is a big feat, I think. That's a really impressive thing. They had the option of staying with us or moving on to somewhere else, and they chose to stay with us for the vast majority. And I think that's a big thing. So, yeah, it's been, like I said, it's easy. I don't know what to tell you. It's been great.
Several times I've pulled up to the security gate and I've seen a person pull their car up and pull out their wallet or something and wave it and get in. I thought we were supposed to only let people have those on their bumper. Are we letting people have wallets and stuff like that so they can pass them around to their friends?
You're talking about the transponders. So we actually yanked every transponder 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? About 2 years ago, we pulled them all in and started over. And so basically, there's parameters now, and you had to come back and apply to get those. So there are people that do have them for various reasons, car dealers. There's some people, I think, with some medical issues that we've issued them to. And then if you were to get a rental car tomorrow, for example, then you could come to the gate and they'll give you a temporary transponder, but it's only good for a period of 2 weeks. Yeah, it's only good for a period of time, and then it shuts off, right? Yeah. Yeah, and we went from, how many?
80 to about 12.
Yeah, we went from 80 of those floating around to 10 or 12. So, yeah. It was an issue. We addressed it. I'm comfortable with it. I think the people that have them are the people that should have them, right?
Yeah, just what he said is correct. So we greatly reduced the number. There used to be about 80 out there, scaled back considerably, reissued. Everybody's got to register. So some car dealers, and God bless them, they have a new car every day theoretically, and that seems to be a reasonable solution. And then, of course, if your car needs to go to the shop, then we accommodate that on a limited short-term basis. So those still do exist, but on a far lesser scale, and they're all regulated and registered. So. One thing I just follow up with Tom go in the back. So in our vision statement, our mission statement, it says security is job one and highest priority, and that is true. I will say this board follows that up with support, not only with their personal support, but with the funding support and the initiative and the appetite to try different things in technology and new vehicles and SAPD and supporting the Guard with painting the buildings and making sure the facilities are top-notch. So the support is there. The security is job one, and it is supported here. And to the point, Tom and I have talked about this, where we try to be the best. We really strive, Tom and I and the whole team strive to really be the best secured HOA ever. And that's maybe a little bit lofty, and maybe we don't achieve that, but that's what we kind of try to do. Like, who's doing something better than us? And if we find that, we try to replicate that. We're testing out drones right now and seeing how that works and how we can implement those. But we're looking always for new things, analytics and cameras and just different components. So we're open for ideas. To the point where we now have people calling us from other associations around Texas and saying, hey, we heard you guys do this something, and we're like, we want to know more about that. And I think that's, to us, a sign of flattery, and we appreciate that, and we're certainly supportive of that. But we are definitely striving to always elevate our security game, and I think we're doing a commendable job, and Tom's a key component of that. So the second biggest component, and every bit as complicated and probably more difficult to manage, is landscaping, which is now common area parks. But as John alluded to, this community is 35 years old, so you have landscaping and common areas that are 35 years old and some are 1 year old. But the reality that this world is different than it was 35 years ago, and the landscaping is different, and the climate's different, and what works is different, and so changing some of that is a very difficult process and challenging to do. And we've got a guy in Jack Hazel that's leading our way here, that's kind of steering a big cruise ship in a different direction. And he's done an excellent job of getting everybody on the cruise ship going in the right direction and saying, look, folks, the reality is we have drought, we have less water, we have higher temperatures, and the stuff we had 35 years ago that looked good and worked good is not looking good and not working good anymore. So we got to take a different direction, and he's leading us that direction. And you see it out there now, and it's looking good, and it's going to survive, and we don't have to put a ton of water on it and try to maintain it, and it's going to stay with us. So I'm not going to go into too much depth. He will, I'm sure. But I appreciate Jack. He's doing a great job. Now he's joining the board, so we're looking for great things, more great things out of Jack, and I'll turn it over to him. He's going to tell you a lot more about common area and parks.
All right. This is a subject that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on, so you can imagine that I actually, when I came into this committee, have the least amount of experience in landscaping as anybody that's either on the committee or that works with the staff at the HOA. So I just try to lead them and keep the roadblocks out of their road on what we do. I'm just going to say a couple words about the committee in general. We do have a fabulous committee. You guys saw some of the names up there, but we do have some people that have been on this committee for a long period of time, for 10 plus years. But we have Jim Bowles, who runs his own construction company. We have Richard Wilburn, who owns his own commercial landscaping company. We have Ann, who's basically in the real estate agent. So all these people bring a lot of different aspects to that committee that is very much more helpful than I can be to that committee. So it's been a joy working with them. And then the other one that we were fortunate to get about, I guess he's been here now 2 years. Roger joined the HOA staff, and I don't know if everybody in here knows, but Roger has a phenomenal background, and he's not only he's a landscape architect from Texas A&M, but he also has been in the industry for almost 40 years now. He's ran his own landscape company. He's got a wealth of experience. He drugged me down to the convention center here for one of the big landscaping conferences last summer, and I'd never been to one in my life. But you know, every industry has its own, you know, convention and annual convention. This is the biggest one for the state of Texas, and when we walked around there, I was humbled by how much Roger was a rock star. We could not get from one booth to the next booth without somebody walking up and shaking this guy's hand. I knew Roger knew a lot about the industry, and he's been extremely helpful. I had no idea he was that well known and respected in the industry in Texas, not just San Antonio, but in the state of Texas. He is our rock star, and he is really a lot of the reason that the changes that we have started instituting have been successful, because we can dream about this stuff all day long in a room, but he's the one that's putting it on the ground and making sure it gets done right and put in place. So he's been a tremendous asset, and I can't say enough to thank Roger for all he does. And he takes a lot of pride in what he does, and he works a lot of hours to do this, and he makes sure that it's done right. So we don't have to worry about a lot of things. It made my job 10 times easier than it was when we first started on this path. Rob already mentioned that we kind of expanded the scope of the committee last year. We changed the name, Common Area and Parks Committee. The Common Area just picks up all the common assets that the HOA owns. So we did this late last year. We're going to be taking a hard look at some of the other areas and items. We've been doing that for landscaping. Now we're going to look at some of the other areas that we have in the areas like street lights and monuments in those areas. So that committee's scope is expanded. The other big activity that happened last year was we changed out our landscape contractor. We had Maldonado in here for about 10 years, and over that period of time, their performance had deteriorated pretty dramatically. We tried a lot to hold them accountable to the contract. In the end, we just couldn't get there. And thanks again to Roger, we stepped back and wrote we have a set of what I like to call standards of care. It's a document that basically says how high we mow the grass, how much mulch we put on tree rings, how to build a tree ring. The document's got, it's a, 15, 20-page document. We took that document, and with Roger's help again, we did a selection process. We picked 5 companies. We went out to bid. We actually made them bid in a way that was very unique. And again, Roger was the kingpin behind this, but we made them bid on how much labor they were going to put. So we broke the contract in 10 different components, and they bid on each of those components, or they put in their bid. They gave us all the details so that we could compare apples to apples in the contract. And the bottom line of that is we picked Cleanscapes. They were our contractor, and they actually have been remarkable. I don't know, as people have said, we've heard a lot of very positive comments. They're doing a much better job. Our irrigation system now I can honestly stand up here today and say it's fully operational. And not only is it operational, but we're actually using it. Roger, basically, we have it's called a Q4 system that you can actually control it. Half of our controllers are wireless, and he can control them from his office. And he does that. So we turn the water on and we turn the water off when we need to. And Roger's got his hand on the valve for that. So that now is in operation. And for the first time, I can honestly say last year we put that into use. Cleanscapes has been a tremendous partner. We've actually also instituted with them what I like to call a supplier relationship management program. We sit down with them twice a year with their senior managers, and we basically we give them a scorecard, how well are they doing. We broke that into 4 different areas. In that scorecard, they get a performance rating, and then we talk about continuous improvement. It's not our time to beat them up. It's basically how do we maintain this relationship with them? And that supplier relationship has manifested itself into some new ideas that we've come up with, which reduce the cost structure of what we're doing out there. We spend about $1.2 million in maintaining our landscaping out there. And last year, with Roger and Richie, these guys identified that we needed a new way where we're looking at how we do mulching, and we reduced our mulching by 50% last year. And Cleanscapes gave us that money back in the contract, so we got a $55,000 credit back from Cleanscapes for that work. So we're doing that. We're going to continue to do that twice a year. We sit down with them, and it's really around trying to maintain the relationship so that both of us see this as a partner, and it needs to work win-win. I think that's where we got off the rails a little bit with Maldonado. I think they kind of left us a while ago, and we didn't realize it, but this is one way we want to hold the glue together to make sure that we have a long-term relationship. It's not just, hey, you got a new contract, and then over time the performance deteriorates. We need to maintain that performance, sustain that for multiple years to come. So, next slide. So next area we're going to talk about a little bit is projects. We actually started this journey again last year as well. We put together what I like to refer to as a set of design standards. We used to spend a lot of time in a committee debating how we're going to, create a new landscape design for a specific island. I said, that's not really what we're going to do. We could spend a lot of time spinning in circles on that. Instead, what we came down with, we wrote down a set of principles that we want to adhere to in the new standards, and then we basically went through that, and then we picked plant material, rock material, hardscapes material, the type of irrigation we want, and in that standard, basically, we give that to whoever we're going to have bid on our new projects. And so they use that to guide how the projects are going to look. That standard is really built around 4 different principles. One principle is that we're trying to reduce the amount of turf we have out here. As Rob already mentioned, we're going through an unprecedented drought. We're 50-plus inches of rainfall below normal in the last 5 years. The Edwards Aquifer, as of yesterday, was 625.4 feet, which puts us well into we're in stage 3 at SAWS, but the Edwards Aquifer Authority is in stage 4. It's just a matter of time. We're likely going to slip into stage 4, and that means you get to water twice a month for 8 hours. Grass won't grow in 100-degree heat like we had last summer. It just won't grow. We're going to lose it if we don't do something different. So that is not a problem that's going away, and so that's what one of our main premises was. We need to try to reduce the amount of turf we have. The second one was we want to move to more native, or what I like to call sustainable landscape. It needs to be more drought tolerant, but also needs to be freeze tolerant. We've had plenty of freezes around here. You can plant a lot of stuff that's drought tolerant, but if we get one freeze and it all dies, that's not going to work either. So we're trying to pick native material that will grow in this region. The third area is that we're really looking at trying to use a different irrigation technology, which is referred to. Roger's introduced us to this as well. It's point source drip irrigation. We're no longer spraying. When you see these new projects we put in, it's all point source. We're only watering the plants. We're not watering dirt. We're not watering rock. We're not watering mulch anymore, or we're getting away from that. So it's a much more efficient technology. Spray technology, you get a lot of evaporation, and in this case, you're just putting water directly on the plant source. And then the fourth area is we're also introducing a common approach to landscape lighting, and we moved to LED, which is a more efficient lighting. It's also a lot more durable and sustainable over a longer period of time. All the new projects have used a common denominator of what we're doing, what we pick in the way of LED and landscape lighting. So those are some examples up there. We did, in 2024, 52 different, I call projects. They range anywhere from an island to a driveway along a road. Those are projects that have all been implemented last year. We're trying to actually increase that level to twice that much this year. It's a big, heavy ask for us to do, but we're trying to accelerate this now that we're sort of on this path to really get some of these areas that are just basically pure dirt out there to try to get something that looks a lot nicer and is going to be sustainable and live for hopefully the next 10 or 20 years. So that's where the projects are. That just kind of gives you an idea of the locations. We picked those projects based on, or those locations based on their high visibility areas. We did a bit of a test drive first down on Champions Lane. That was our first test projects, and then we moved now to implementing it on most of the high visibility areas. The two areas that we're working on right now as we speak, we just started working the gardens. We got 18 islands there, and then we're doing 4 in the vineyards next. And then we got another pipeline of projects that are coming in the second half of this year. So that's a little bit on kind of the new approach and where we're headed on landscape projects. We've gotten a lot of feedback on this over the years. There was a lot of people that didn't really want us to go down this path, but the reality is that, you know, over the last year, we've gotten nothing but positive feedback for the most part. People really appreciate that we're cleaning up some of the areas that looked pretty rough in the past. And so this is a journey. This is a journey that's going to last probably at least 10 or 15 years. So we've just begun. We got 50 on the boards. I think we have over probably 350 of these kind of common areas throughout the Dominion, and some are much more extensive. One of the areas that we're looking at is right along Brenthurst, the drive along there that goes all the way up to Duxbury Park. That's going to be our third project of this year, and that's going to be a pretty big project as well. So, and then the last area is that adding new amenities and features. We added a dog park this year, and we kind of cleaned up that whole area around the playground. Rogers raised all the canopies of trees in there, put some picnic tables out there. That's an area that has a lot of potential, I think. We own a lot of land back there, believe it or not. We own a good parcel of land. We've also tried to level off. You can see we've leveled off sort of the drainage area through there too, to try to make that area a lot more amenable. And one of the things that in the future that we're going to look at is how do we actually bring that, rope that in more into the Dominion, because right now it kind of sits outside the Dominion. And one of the things that we'd like to do is try to find a way to integrate that more with the Lakes Park. Which kind of brings me to my last point, which is next is our next highest visibility area is really the whole lakes area. We think that we need to do obviously we need to do something in that area. We're trying to take a step back and look at developing a master plan for that. We've gotten some community input from the survey that we did earlier this year. We're starting to digest that material, and then we're going to try to figure out what we want to do in the way of a multi-year plan to try to integrate the lakes area to the playground dog park area and renovate that whole area to upgrade it to something, again, that's more aligned with what we're doing here with the other common areas we have inside the Dominion. So more to come on that in the future, but that's where we're headed next.
Thank you, Jack. Jack is very thorough, so there's not much I can add. That's just the way it is. But that's what we like about Jack. He's very detailed, an engineer. He's got a very good path and a very good plan, and he's keeping everybody on that plan. And that's what we need to be, because as with any organization such as this, with changeover, you can go from one direction to the next, but he's been excellent about keeping us focused on where we need to go. And as he said, that's drought tolerant. He's covered everything. I will throw one statistic out there, kind of over time, and he wasn't here all that time, but probably going about 12 or 13 years, this organization with his common area at that time used about 40 million gallons of water on his common area, and it's currently using about 12 or 13 million or so. So it's dramatically decreased. So, you know, you put the numbers and the dollars to that, it's a significant savings. Yeah.
That's how bad it's really gotten out there. That's where we're at a point where we just have a lot of water.
For those who didn't hear it, so we are limited by SAWS. So as much water as we want to put down, SAWS is going to say you have a cap, and that cap is where we're at. We really are at full capacity of what they will allow us to do. Hence the need to go to drought tolerant. So the other thing, again, like security, it's very high priority and very important to the board. This board and previous boards have backed that up with additional funding for our vendor, is a 50% increase in vendor, and then also, as Jack alluded to, additional landscape modifications. We're attempting to double this year the amount of renovation, which in years previous, we barely did renovations. We added plants, but we're doing renovations. We went from 150, now 350. Now attempting to do about $700,000 worth of renovation this year, which is big, but necessary. It's a common area that's been out there for 35 years in some cases and is due to be scraped and redone. And that's exactly what this association and this board and this committee is doing, so we're on the right path. Okay? With that, I'm going to segue into little other areas in management operations. They are covered by committees, and in this case, it's a development committee or the development. John alluded to the streets. We have a lot of streets, 55 miles, and we repaved some. We do the crack sealing. You see that sometimes, and we put this new product down called HA5. Not bore you with it, but started that about 3 years ago. We started researching that about 5 or 6 years ago, and we did our due diligence on it. But the intent of this product, and if you've been in the gardens or Legends, or actually at this point in time, probably 70% of the community has been redone with this product. The intent is to replace having to repave your streets, which is a far less expense to put a serious bonding agent on top of it to protect it over time, keep water from getting in and damaging the street itself. So that, the theory, and I believe it, the performance at this point in time is that that product is working well. It keeps the streets looking good, which is nice, keeps the community looking good, which is important, but it protects the streets and it prolongs the life of those streets, which saves you money in the long term, a lot of money. So we're very pleased with that. We got more of it going down. It's a little bit of an inconvenience when it does go down. You can't drive over it. And we'll have more of that happen here in about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. They'll start doing this year's application in your neighborhoods. You'll get information on that. Other than that, as John alluded to, we do have paved Dawson. Circle back, please. We have paved Dawson working with all on streets and bridges and various other engineering projects. So they're a great partner in engineering type things that help us with expertise that we do not have, although we have some incredible people on our committee. With respect to development, I think a lot of the people in the community, certainly outside the community, don't realize this community is still growing. It has 400 available lots still. There's 1,700 homes, eventually built out as 2,000. Still 400 lots spread out. There's 2 new neighborhoods, one being Kensington at the south entrance, and that is not quite completed. They got the roads in and utilities in. They're going to put walls around it, and we've approved our first 2 homes for that. So you're going to start seeing homes pop up in Kensington Estates at the south gate. And in the center part of the community, in what used to be called Independence Village, we have Lucchese Estates 2, and that infrastructure is completed with utilities, and the first 12 homes have been reviewed. We've got to do final review on those, but you have a builder called Perry Homes, which is a reputable and well thought of developer here, or home builder, and they have approved the first 12 homes, and they're going off pretty strong and pretty aggressive. And here's some of our partners that we work with, mostly city entities, utilities, SAWS, CPS, TxDOT, Zoning Commission. Just went, I went yesterday to the Zoning Commission, Hike and Bike Trail, Raymond Russell, some of the entities around us. We work very closely with our councilman, Manny Peleas. He's been a great partner, just to make sure that we're taken care of here in the Dominion. Architectural control is another component that we do. Again, development and growth. There's a lot going on out there. There's about 100 homes under construction at this point in time. Again, there's a lot of activity. If you're in one of those neighborhoods, it's not so fun to have a construction project next to you. And you know, we hope just to get those things built out so that the inconvenience is shortened. But 100 homes under construction out there, a lot in the south, a lot in the north, some in the center. It's really everywhere. There's pretty much a lot or 2 or 3 in every single neighborhood out there. There's still room to build homes in every single neighborhood in this community. And you indicated we got 25 of them out there. So wherever you are, there's probably available lot to be built on. Covenant enforcement, John alluded to, is a very important part that we do. It has not been a focus for this community for some time, but this new board and the previous board felt it was important. We have a board member that feels very strongly about it, and we appreciate that, and Chris Idema. So we have a designated staff person, which is important. It takes a unique skill set to go out there and tell people to mow their lawn and to paint their houses and do all those things that are necessary for the value of your homes. And so he is here doing that and out there and making strides in bringing landscaping up. But we talked about that the landscaping is a challenge because of drought restrictions. So we're working with our homeowners to be for a reasonable approach, and that is, quite frankly, going forward, what we're doing in our common area. It's mulch, it's rock, it's Texas native, and maybe artificial grass, so it's a little bit different than it was 35 years ago when you had these humongous yards with St. Augustine grass that got a ton of water, and it was very inexpensive. That just doesn't work anymore. So we're helping shift and get our residents to change, but encouraging them to do so. They can't not do anything. With that, we're going to go to neighborhood outreach. I've already touched on the dog park. We just had the grand opening. It was a great event with a bunch of dogs, a bunch of people, had a good time. We had the bonfire. We were able to bring that back this year. That picture's up there. We were able to bring that back to the Pecan Grove. I know we had a couple of years where we weren't able to have it, so we brought it back. It's a great event. Big bonfire again. It was super fun, super scary, but a great turnout for that. And we're going to continue to do that. The thing that we're doing a little differently is trying to do more what we call pop-up events. So more frequent, smaller events, and bring people to the parks or bring people to the dog park. And for something simple, a little bit of snack, a little bit of food, and for the residents to meet their friends and neighbors and just have a good time for a short period and not have these big, elaborate events. So we're trying that, and so far it's working out pretty well. With that, NOC's biggest thing is a lot of its communication. We did, at the beginning of last year, we added the 3 electronic marquees out there, so that's been an upgrade. We're doing weekly reads now to try to communicate as best we can, give you as much information without inundating you with too much information. So once a week, we send you kind of an update of what's important going on out there. Those messages that we send out, we're happy to report that 70% of the people essentially are opening them up, hopefully reading them, but our records say that they are being opened up. We also welcome new residents. Not every association does that, but we sit down and go through an orientation. We have somebody go greet them at their house and make sure that they, as reasonable as possible, have a good idea of how things work here at the Dominion, or if they need help, who to go to. And as John indicated, one of our big allies and very important relationship we have is with the Dominion Country Club. The health of the country club is important to the health of the association and vice versa. So we try to work with them as best we can, host our events there, support them, encourage our residents to be members there, and work with them to make sure that they're a vibrant operation. And it's good for you, it's good for your home values, and it's good for the HOA. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the money part, and this is where my expertise is not so good. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa and Todd, and they're going to cover your financial report, and I'll start with Todd.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm Todd. I'm the treasurer of the HOA and also a board member. Work with Lisa and the finance committee, and we've done a lot this year as far as finances are concerned. There's not going to be a dues increase for next year, which everybody's hopefully appreciative of. We're in great financial shape as far as operating expenses, staying on budget, and reserves. Lisa will now come up and give us all the details on that.
Hello, welcome everybody. Most of these faces out there, I know. I've been here going on 13 years, and I really love this community, and as Rob has said, and John alluded to, we have the best staff that we've had ever. We are such a collaborative team. I was not nervous tonight. I've been nervous for 13 years before tonight because our team members have it all. They are good backups to myself and Rob. So I want to thank them sincerely. I know financials are boring, and I know y'all been sitting here for a little while, so I'm going to go quickly through this. But this is a fun slide. Lots of pretty colors. And it shows you where your 295 goes. And I'll do the math for you. Between security, landscaping, and reserves, that equals $255 of the $295. So the 3 most important things, security, landscape, and reserves, is a large majority of where your dues go. $40 remaining for G&A, utilities, and events. So that's the $295. Our 2024 accomplishments was 2024 audited results, we received an unqualified audit opinion, which means the auditors found the financial statements to be accurate and in full compliance with GAAP, indicated no material misstatements. So y'all can be secure in your financials. We came under budget this year. Although we projected a loss, we were under budget. And the last thing is we enhanced some financial controls, add in some checks and balances to operations. And then here is the boring part. We have $6.4 million of assets, 1.1 million of liabilities, and then 5.3 of your fund balance. Our revenue last year, I think John mentioned it, was 7.4, expenses 6 million, and we transferred to reserves 1.3 million, and we had a net of $20,000. And then capital expenses, we spent close to $2 million, 1.2 million on our 55 miles of road that we've talked about tonight, and landscaping 400,000. And then lastly, what to expect in 2025, no assessment increase. And just for everyone to know, our reserves are 85% funded. We're not overfunded and we're not significantly underfunded. 85% is within industry standards. In the 2025 budget, we increased our operations landscapes almost 200,000 and security increased 300,000. And then landscape renovations we're going to do this year is 700,000. And again, without a dues increase. And I have copies of the audited financial statements in the back if anybody would like a copy, or you can email me and I can email you a copy. And that's all. Was it too boring?
Thank you, Lisa. It may be boring, but thank God we got her to take care of it because she does a great job. She's right on the numbers. She mentioned we were under budget this last year. We were budgeted for a loss, but we came in under budget and with a surplus, and we've done that for now 13 years. So you've always come in on a favorable cash flow situation for these 13 years. So always taking that money and giving the board opportunity to send that to reserves or leave it in operations for surplus. With that, want to say a couple things. One, thank you for coming out tonight. We do appreciate it. Probably a lot of other things you could be doing, but you came out and supported us, and we do greatly appreciate that. It's your association. This is the one opportunity a year for you to come out. It's an annual members meeting. The purpose is to do election. We've done that. We got three new, or two returning and one new board member. Super happy to have them. We have a great board. We're going to continue on with that. They have a meeting next Tuesday to elect officers for the upcoming year. You're welcome to attend. Second thing, I'm going to also speak to my staff and my team. And my team is, as we've said, extends beyond our actual employees. Our team is the staff that are paid, the vendors that work with us as our team members, Wakai and Richie, is Richie still here. Our team extends to the committees and the volunteers. Our team extends to the chairman, and our team certainly extends to the board here. Without all of those things, you know, this doesn't work as well as it does. So exceptional group of people, and I'm blessed to be part of it, thankful to be part of it. It's a great place to be, and I hope you think the same. With that, I'm going to go ahead, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you for your patience and understanding. I'll open the floor up to questions and answers, and then we still have food and drinks available, and you're welcome to stay. Yes, sir. Excellent question. So, a couple of things, and it's not really common news out there, but the state of Texas doesn't allow an association to require you to water your turf, nor does it allow us to require or demand that you install new turf. So we can't even enforce you to maintain or install turf. With that realization, and as we've already indicated, if you have turf, there's all likelihood it's going to die because you can't water it. So we have to do something, and we're doing it with our common areas, and we're reviewing strongly reviewing the use of artificial turf, and more than likely, you'll see some test areas here in the upcoming year or so. But the ACC is also, for homes, not only allowing, we've always allowed it in the backyard where it was out of sight, out of mind. We're allowing it, not only allowing it, we're encouraging it in the front yard. Because we know it's a futile effort for us to go put out some turf, and then it's going to be burnt up by the summer. So we're encouraging it. You're seeing more of it out there. We are monitoring the quality and the specs for that artificial turf to make sure that hopefully it's good quality and it's not going to look, in the old days, kind of look cheap and fake. It looks pretty realistic out there. It looks like a fantastic yards out there, quite frankly. But you will see more, and we encourage it. Understood. Yeah. I think that's, I mean, I unpack that because it's a great question for a broader issue in that association, in our case, association that was started 35 years ago, has some foundational rules put in place that said this is how this is going to work going forward, knowing that things would change over time. And putting in those documents some sort of a flexibility or variance allowances to change, or for a board to adopt policies and rules and guidelines and standards of care to say this is how it's going to be done now, or this is how it's going to be done 5 years from now. And so with the Architectural Control Committee, there's certainly, you can't define everything relative to architectural control. It's impossible to do so, especially with changing materials, architectural styles, flavors, and colors and materials that are out there. So there's some general guidelines, but the ACC has the ability, the flexibility to approve variances. It's like the rule says this, but in this case, that doesn't make sense. So we're going to approve this. And so that's one of them. Kind of come back in circle here. Artificial turf, we used to be opposed to it. We said no artificial turf, no artificial nothing. Now we're saying not only it's allowable, but we want you to do it. So things have changed, and we're adapting to it. Okay, other questions? Yes, ma'am. We have discussed that, and that is one of those considerations. We've looked at the heat factor. You got to water it. There's the issue with pets, and how do you manage that? We talked about that in the landscape committee. We'll potentially have artificial turf out in our parks, and how are we going to maintain it? You got to put dirt down on it to keep it settled. There's even issues with broken glass in it, and we have to be considerate of that in our common areas. So your point's spot on. There's trade-offs, right? It's going to be hot in the summertime versus turf, and people have to understand that. And we try to communicate that when they're submitting their applications to us. We don't know. There's certain things, of course, with this new product, any new product, we don't know how it's necessarily going to be from 10 years from now. We'll find out that it lasted well, or find out something that it breaks down over 5 years and you got to replace it. Some things we just don't know. But we do know that we don't have enough irrigation out there, and we do know a lot of people are having burnt up yards of brown dirt out there, and we know that doesn't look good, and we know that doesn't maintain your value. So we're trying to do something. We're trying to be flexible and reasonable. Okay? Any other questions? If not, we will conclude the meeting. Thank you, and congratulations to our new board members. Thank you for coming out. There is food. Enjoy yourselves. Have a good evening.